All right, back through translations. What's the deal on translations? What do I do with?
Remember the rule.
What do translations do?
You gotta change the edge.
No. What does a translation do? It moves it, slides it left, right, up, down. That's all a translation does. There is no changing signs. There is no swapping stuff. All I'm doing is moving it left, right, up, or down. Now, if it gives you the rule here, what do we do?
You just
Plug in the X with it, plug it in
plus
with
2.
I'm going to take that X and plug it in there. I'm going to take that Y, plug it in there. So C prime would be negative 2 minus 8. And then 4 plus 2. So my actual answer then would be negative 10, 6. If I want to do the second one, I'm going to take my X number. Remember, we're dealing with X and Y like that. A prime would be 0 minus 8. Y would be negative 8 plus 2. So A prime would be negative 8, negative 6.
So
Any questions there? If it gives you the pre-image, it says go back and find the image. What do we do?
You put in 5 minus 12.
You take whatever the rule that they gave you is and do the opposite. Because if I'm going back and finding the pre-image, I've got to undo whatever happened to get there.
okay.
So for B, it would be 5 minus 12 and then negative 29 minus 17, excuse me, plus 17. So my actual pre-image would be negative 7, negative 12. All right, give me A prime, or excuse me, A right there. All right, again, if I'm going backwards and finding the pre-image, what am I supposed to do? The opposite of whatever the rule said to do. So I'm going to do 20 minus 12 and then negative 19 plus 17. That winds up being 8, negative 2. All right, reflections. To reflect across the X, what does the rule tell me to do? Change the sign of the Y. Reflect across the X, change the sign of the Y. Which direction is this going to reflect? If I reflect across the X-axis.
It's gonna flip.
Which way?
It's gonna flip over.
I mean, no.
I need something like up or down.
Oh,
If this one is here and I reflect across the X-axis, it's going to wind up down there. If it starts in the bottom, then it's going to reflect up to the top. So reflecting across the X-axis is up or down.
Hold on, go back.
So if I want to reflect across the X-axis, what would this A prime be
It'll
then?
be 4, negative 7, 7, negative 1.
And then I would just do the same process.
1, negative 1. So when you change the y-axis, you got to change the x.
We ain't there yet. So if I reflect across the X, all I'm going to do is change the Y. It's going to flip up or down. Here's what I want you to do. I'm just going to draw it on this one. Reflect this one. Reflect that one that I just drew. Alright, so if I want to reflect across the X-axis, to me the easiest way is this. You find the axis that you're dealing with, and then count and see how far the points are away. How far is this point from the axis?
2.
So if it's 2 spaces below, the other one's going to be 2 spaces above. And this one here is 3 spaces below, so I go 3 spaces above, 4 spaces, and then 4 spaces. So there would be my new triangle. Alright, if it's reflecting across the y-axis, what am I going to do? Change the sign of the x. So if I reflect across the y-axis, what would this become? Negative 4, 7.
Negative 7, 1.
Negative 7, 1.
Negative 1, 1.
Which direction is reflecting across the y going to go? Either left or right, depending on where you started. All right, I want you to do this one right here. Reflect that one across the y-axis. All right, which direction am I going here?
Alright.
If I'm reflecting across the y-axis, it's either left or right. Based on where this is, the only choice I've got, go to the right. Start at your point and say, how far is it from the y-axis? One space. Well, if I'm one space over here, I've got to go one space to the right. This one is 4 spaces. So I go 4 spaces opposite direction, and then 4 spaces for that one. There's my new triangle. If it's reflecting across y equals x, what do I do?
Change, you swap.
Change both.
I swap. I ain't changing anything. I swap the positions. So xy becomes yx. All right, so first of all, we need to understand that this is y equals x. Is there any questions about that? Y equals x goes through the origin and up to the right. Notice what happens. What is this negative 4, 2 going to become? 2 negative 4. So 2 negative 4. This negative 3, negative 1 becomes negative 1, negative 3, and then negative 5, negative 2 becomes negative 2, negative 5. So if I wanted to reflect this, B prime is going to be what?
Negative 12, negative 7.
And then A prime
Negative 2, 8.
and T
13,
prime.
9.
All we're doing is switching the positions of the x and y. Last one, reflect across y equals negative x. I'm going to change or swap them and change both signs. Swap and change both signs. Make sure we understand this is what y equals negative x looks like. It goes down to the right. So when I get my new points, what is that 4, 6 going to become?
Negative 6. Negative 4.
Negative 6, negative 4. I take both signs, change them, and then swap the position.
Negative 2, negative
B prime is negative 2, negative 4. C prime.
Negative 2.
Alright. So again, if I was doing the W right here,
Negative 21, negative 13. Negative 9, 2. 24, negative 17.
Still 67.
alright?
67.
Alright, on these where it says find the line of reflection. How do I do that?
You go, it's the middle.
Find the middle of the 2 closest points. So my 2 closest points are here
Negative 6.
and here. How many spaces are they apart? They're 2 spaces apart, so halfway in between them would be 1 space. So I go 1 space from each one and I wind up here. Draw a line. Which kind of line does it need to be? So if it's vertical, what does vertical automatically tell me about what the equation looks like?
Y equals
Nope.
X equals.
X equals. If it's straight up and down, it's always an X equals line. Because which axis is it hitting? It's going to hit the X axis. So this would be X equals negative 7. If I come over here to this one, halfway in between the 2 closest points, where they're 4 spaces away, 2 spaces cuts it in half. That one's a horizontal line.
So Y equals.
And in this case, Y equals 3. So that would be my line of reflection. Make sure we can do that right there. On these, how do I know if it's a reflect across the X? What does it do?
Yeah, don't you have a virtual line?
Well, hold on. If it reflects across the X, what does it do?
Up or down?
It goes up or down. If it reflects across the Y, what does it do?
Left or right?
Left or right. Are these doing that?
no.
This first one is not reflecting down because it would wind up down here. It's not reflecting right because it was right there. So if it's this case, you've only got 2 choices. What are your 2 choices? what are my two choices of reflection though?
Y and X.
It can say y equals x and reflect over that, or y equals negative x. The way to do it is to write down some points. Now I'm just going to write down this first one right here. So that becomes, or is, negative 2, 3. And then the one that matches it over here would be 3, negative 2. What did I do with those numbers right there?
You just
I just swapped the position. And if I swap the position, that's y equals x, which would be like that. If I come over here,
write your points down.
I'm going to write my points down. So I'm just going to take this point right here. So that is negative 3, 2. And then this one is negative 2, 3. What did I do right there?
You swap them and change the sign.
I swapped the position and I changed the signs.
Y equals negative.
So that's got to be y equals negative x, which would be doing that right there. All right. Give me the line of reflection for those two. All right. On this, y'all.
That'd be X equals
On the first one, which direction is it flipping?
to the left.
Left and right. We don't know which one is first. It really doesn't matter, but I know it's going left and right.
X equals
So I'm going to take my 2 points right here.
X equals negative.
They're what, 6 spaces away from each other? So I need to go 3 in one direction. 1, 2, 3. There's my middle. So that would have to be x equals negative 1. I come over here. These are obviously flipping up and down.
Boom, got it.
I'm going to take these two. There's 8 spaces in between those, so go 4.
Y equals negative 2.
And that's a horizontal line. So that's y equals negative 2. Any questions on those?
What time we get out?
All right. On these, if it's ones like this where it's going diagonally,
Y equals it.
it's either going to be y equals x or y equals negative x for the reflection stuff. Now, the way to find it is to write down the points and then see how it moves. So this first one is negative 2, negative 2.
2, 2.
And then over here,
Positive 2. You flip down.
2 and 2.
So that's y equals negative x.
Now, to me, it's kind of hard to see on that one right there because it's the same number. I would prefer to use this one down here, which is negative 4, negative 6. And then I take the other one and it's 6, 4. To me, that's easier to see. I switched and changed the signs.
That's why I put it.
So if I switch and change signs, that's a y equals negative x reflection. Over here, if I take this first point, so that is negative 1, 3, and then this point right here is 3, negative 1. All right,
Y equals
I
X.
switched the positions, but I didn't change any
So
signs.
that's y equals x.
So that means it is
X.
y equals x. All right, this is the one that gave us the most trouble, rotations. All right, the problem was mixing these rules up with the reflection rules we just went over. If it's rotating 90 degrees clockwise, the rule says what?
Design the gate. Make the x negative.
Change the x, swap positions. Change the sign of the x and swap the order. All right, so if I wanted to look at 90 degrees clockwise, y'all, 90 degrees clockwise, remember, it's the same as what?
270.
This is 270 counterclockwise. Those are the same thing. So if I want to do 90 clockwise, I do what?
You got to change the sign
Change the
of
sign of the
X
x and swap the order. So this is going to be positive 7
3,
and move it to the back. And then move y to the front.
7, 4, negative
So here,
Negative.
4, negative
4, negative 1.
1.
1,
negative
negative 3. Change the sign of the x and swap the order. So if I take this graph right here, where should it end up? 90 degrees clockwise.
Oh.
On the other, right there.
This part right here
It's gonna be right
should
there.
come down to quadrant 4.
And then front.
And this part right here should go up to quadrant 1. So that's what should happen. Well, we just did the rule, so that was
3, negative 7, 4,
three
negative
positive 7, right?
Yeah.
and then 4,
4
negative 1, and then,
1 negative 3.
so let's see if that works. 3, 7 will be up here. 4, negative 1 is down there. 1, negative 3 is down here. And there's our new figure. All right, next one. If I rotate 90 counterclockwise, which is the same as 270 clockwise, what do I do?
You change the sign of Y.
Change the sign of the Y and then
Swap.
swap the order.
Wait, don't change it.
All right, so if I want to take this and do 90 degrees counterclockwise, what did the rule say on 90
Change the
counterclockwise?
sign of
Change the
Y.
Y.
Change the Y, so this is going to be a 2, and then I switch the order, so that's 2, negative 3. This is going to be negative 5, switch the order,
Negative 2, 0.
and then negative 2, 0. Where should this be if I rotate 90 counterclockwise?
The top should be in that, and then that should be.
Remember, I'm going to the left.
So it'd be down.
This is coming over here, and all of that is coming down there. All right, so we said 2, negative 3, negative 5, negative 6.
Negative 2, 0.
Y'all need to be quiet. 2, negative 3 would be down there. Negative 5, negative 6 would be here. And negative 2, 0 is there. There's the new position of that. Rotate 180. What is 180?
180 is swap. Both they change.
Change the signs. I'm not swapping positions. I'm just changing the sign. Only change the sign if you're doing 180. All right, y'all, hush. The kind of hush where you don't talk anymore. All right, so if I want to rotate 180, what am I doing?
Oh, yes, change.
Change the sign. So this would be
8, 2,
8, 2.
8, 9, 2, 2, 2, 9.
So if I'm looking at my figure here, how many quadrants does 180 move? 2. So this one, which is in the third,
It's going to be across.
will have to wind up
Yep.
over here in the first.
That'd be the
So
same as
180
doing a
is
what
like-
with it.
If it's in the first quadrant, it's going to be the third. Third is first. If it's in the second, it's going to go to
The
fourth. And if it's in the fourth, it's going to go back to the second.